This is Gary Fleck with Proven Learning. Proven Learning is the sole source for GradeCam in 8 states in the Southeast United States. This is the third of 3 training videos for GradeCam GO, particularly for schools and districts with GradeCam GO site licenses. In our first video, we discussed basic GradeCam use, particularly for new users. In our second video, we talked about home page operations, including data sharing and the different types of reports available. In this, the third video, we're going to discuss customizing an answer sheet for students in order to match the more complex assessments that you actually give in class. So from my home page on GradeCam, I'm going to create a new assignment. Multiple question. We're going to give it a name. And a length. Click Save. And of course, that takes me to the page where I make an answer key. But instead of just 10 multiple choice questions, we're going to customize this test to meet a more complex assessment that I have created in benchmark number 12. One of my options is to create multiple versions for the test. So if I click on Add Versions in this panel on the left-hand side, I have the option of having up to 5 different versions of the same test for security reasons in the class. When I do that, GradeCam, and let me maximize this window so you can see this more clearly, GradeCam will create a bubble sheet that has 5 bubbles across the top, where the student would bubble in which version of the test they're taking and then fill in the rest of the data, and GradeCam knows which version then to grade. Going back. So multiple versions is one of my options when I create an assessment in GradeCam. I'm going to close Remove Versions because we're only doing one version in this case. And then I can customize my actual questions. We're going to start by adding standards. So adding standards, we use the checkbox system to modify all of our questions. Let's say I want to add standards to 1, 3, and 5. So I will checkbox those questions. And then under standards, I will choose the standards that I want for my test. Now, in order to find the standards for your specific state, under your name and settings, there will be a place to choose your state as the place from which your standards will come. Set that once, and that becomes a global setting for your account. So, under standards, I'm going to first of all drill down to find out which standards are available by picking the subject first. Then I'll choose the source from which that standard's coming. Pick a grade. And GradeCam is going to tell me that I currently have 78 possible standards that I can choose from. I can further drill down by typing in keywords from the standard I'm after. So if I, for instance, start typing in geometric, you can see where GradeCam is actually narrowing down which standards are available. So I've narrowed it down to 7. And once I've narrowed it down, I can choose then, using the checkboxes, which standard or standards, plural, I want to attach to those 3 questions. So I'll click 2 of them. And if I go back, my dialog box here is going to tell me that on questions 1, 3, and 5, I've attached 2 standards. So that's how we attach standards to the question in order to track them with our students. But I can also modify the questions themselves. So I'm going to uncheck 5 and 3 here. And question number 1, I have different options for any of my questions. But even as multiple choice, I have a couple of options. I can have up to 10 bubble choices for my students. So either so that I can either use them for matching or if I actually have 10 possible answers. And they can, by the way, be any letter or whole number in any order as long as they're not duplicated. I also have the option of adding an additional answer. So if my answer is either A or C, I can make this one A, add another answer and make it C, and then assign point values depending on how I want those particular answers to be scored. So multiple choice. I'm going to save that, and you notice that my bubble sheet now reflects what I've done over there. On my test called benchmark number 12, questions 2 and 3 are constructed response. They're a short answer. So in order to score those, I'm going to change the type from multiple choice to a rubric. And I have two choices, either rubric or rubric with a capture area. The capture area allows the student to write actually on the answer sheet, and GradeCam will record the written answer of the student so that I then have that written response for me to be able to score inside of GradeCam. And I'll show you what that looks like. Or I can score it just as a rubric without a capture area, which you may want to do, and also works well for setting up things like Likert scales. But for these two questions, we're going to say a rubric with capture area. Then I have some parameters. How many rows do I want available for the student? And here's a preview of what the student's going to be able to write in. How big do I want those rows to be? When I set up my rubric, how many points do I want to have possible? So if I want to have a possible 6 points for these particular questions, I can set that up. And once I've filled in my parameters, I'm going to click Save. And I've created 2 constructed response questions where the students will write in. I'm going to uncheck those boxes. On this particular test, question number 4 is going to be numeric response. So I'm going to change that type to a number grid. So I'll click number grid, and when I do, GradeCam is going to ask me to define some of the parameters for the number grid. This is easier to show you than tell you. So let me pull up a bubble sheet that I created that has number grids on it. On this bubble sheet, questions 3 and 4 are number grid questions. You'll notice that not only are they different widths, but they also have different operators available for the student to be able to bubble out. And that's what I mean by defining the bubble sheet, the number grid for the student. So I first of all want to say, what bubbles do I want to have? And I can have a maximum of 16. And I can use all the different characters that are listed down here. So if I want to add a divide sign, I can. What is the maximum answer length? How wide do I want that bubble grid to be? Because if my answer is, say, 3.7, I need at least 3 bubbles across because I need 1 for the decimal point. And then I'll fill in the answer key for what the correct answer is. And once I've done that, I've created a numeric response question. And I'll save that, uncheck it. So we've customized this bubble sheet with different types of questions. Once I've done that, I also need to create the bubble sheets that mimic what I've created here. So on this same page, I'm going to create forms. And as we did before, I'm going to choose a class. So I can create a class set of these. But I also have the option of creating a bubble sheet that works not just for this assignment, but for any assignment that follows the same format that I've created. So if every morning for my class I give a test where question number 1 is multiple choice, question 2 is 2 and 3 are constructed response, question 4 is numeric response, then I can create an assignment with a compatible key. So I can use that same bubble sheet generically for any assignment with the same key. And then I'll generate that bubble sheet, and here's a preview of what we're doing. You notice that this is the place where the students can write in. So I'll generate, download the PDF, and here I have a bubble sheet for each student where question number 1 was that A through E in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Questions 2 and 3 are constructed response. Question 4 is numeric response, and the rest were multiple choice. From there, it's a matter of just providing whatever the correct answers are supposed to be for those things that for those answers that need to be bubbled in. And then I can scan my students in once they've completed their forms. So I'll click scan, and I'm only going to scan a couple of them. So I'm going to put that under there, and GradeCam is going to read that. And by the way, my particular computer seems to work better with Chrome than it does for Firefox. I'm not sure how that works with other computers, but that might be something you might want to try. So we're scanning. There's 1, there's 2. It takes a little bit longer since it's reading those handwritten responses. Chance to scan there. And then once I've scanned my students, I have their scores. In order to score them, you'll notice on the sheet here, it says it doesn't tell me what they missed because I still have a couple of questions that I have to score, the constructed response pieces. I can do that either individually for a student by clicking on that student's name, and here's that student's answers that they filled in so that I have their handwritten answer, and above it, the rubric that I created so that I can bubble in what they've earned for those questions. Optionally, and let me X this out, I have the option of scoring by question. So if I click by question, on this particular test, questions 2 and 3 were all constructed response because that's what we created. So if I want to see all question number 2, I can click on 2, and now I'm going to see side by side every question 2 for all of the students, so that I can just go down and score all of the question 2 answers that my students have provided. Once I've done that, then that completes the grading for those particular students, as well as aligning it with the standards that they may or may not have gotten correct for those questions. Let's save that. Now let's say that I'm scoring my students and I find that everyone has missed the same multiple choice question. And that seems odd to me, but I realized what happened was that I put the wrong answer on the answer key. In GradeCam, you can go back to the answer key and change the answers after everything's been graded, and GradeCam will automatically regrade everybody's test for you without rescanning. So I'll click on the key and then choose to change whatever answer I need. So let's say question 1 was supposed to be C instead of A. I get a warning text box that tells me I'm going to be regrading everyone's test. Well, that's what I want to do. So I'm going to modify that and change that answer so that now that GradeCam automatically regrades everyone. Or let's say that question number 1 was not a good question. The kids didn't get it and they didn't quite understand it. It was just written wrong. If I unbubble that question, it no longer exists on the test because GradeCam only reads the questions that I've provided answers for. That completes video number 3 of training with GradeCam. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to show you what GradeCam can do. Feel free to look up some of the tutorials for GradeCam. GradeCam tutorials are all available in bite-sized pieces at GradeCam.com under the support, getting started, and GradeCam GO tutorials. All the stuff we've discussed in all 3 videos are all available in bite-sized pieces here. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Enjoy using GradeCam, and we look forward to working with you.